Well, good day to you. It is January the 14th, and I hope wherever you are, you're having a great day. My name is Gary Willing. I want to welcome you to Search for Signs. And as I always like to do, just kind of point out to those people who are new or are hearing this information for the first time that if you want to know more about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, you want to know more about the priorities of the teacher, want to see if there's any truth to this information for yourself, the best thing to do is to do your own research. If you look in the description portion of every one of these videos, I've tried to make it a little bit easier for everybody by putting in a bunch of links that take you to websites that talk about this information. That's why I did it. So hopefully you'll take advantage of some of the information on some of these sites because everything on every one of these websites is free. But if you want some background information about Maitreya, don't know where to go, check out the Share International link. The link is at the very top. You'll get the best background information from that site than you can anywhere else. If you want to come back and join the discussion, you can do it one of four ways. You can listen to another video and not say a word. That's probably what I would do. If you want to let me know what you think, post a comment. If you want to kick it up a notch and ask a question, post your question in the comment section or email me that question to searchforsigns@mail.com. Okie dokie. So, I wanted to talk about Lisa Hasking's quote. She said, "Great quote, Gary, won't share and we don't. God save us." Now, what is she talking about? Well, she is talking about this thumbnail I put up about a couple videos ago that has a picture of Mother Teresa. And the quote is, "God does not create poverty, we do, because we do not share." Now, with all due respect, Ms. Lisa, eventually we will share. It's just when we realize, it won't happen until we realize just how important it is to share, because Maitreya is going to put it like this: without sharing, there will be no justice. Without justice, there will be no peace. And here's the rub: without peace, there will be no future. When we realize that portion of it, we will listen to what Maitreya has to say and share. Maitreya has said many times that we will eventually do the principle of sharing. It's just a matter of when. Now, up until that point, I think humanity is going to try everything it possibly can to bring about justice and bring about peace, to help save the environment, and not try the principle of sharing. And they're going to realize that none of it's going to work, because according to Maitreya, the only thing that's going to bring about justice and bring about peace is the principle of sharing. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about in reference to your comment about Mother Teresa was, a couple of videos ago, I talked about Mother Teresa because someone had asked me my opinion about some criticism that she had been hearing about Mother Teresa. Wanted to know if I thought it was true. Now, I'm sure Mother Teresa had her issues. I don't know exactly what they are, and to be honest with you, I really don't care at this point, because she's been, she's passed away for it's been so long since she's passed away. But Mother Teresa is probably the best example for how to serve. Maitreya even called her out on it and said she serves as she breathes. That's how much she served in her life. But the reason why I think she's a fine example of how to serve, because there are a lot of ways to serve. If you were to look at Mozart, for instance, as an example to serve, he is a fine example of service through music. But if you don't know how to play the piano, you can't write compositions like he does. How are you going to be able to serve like he does, right? Does that make sense? If you look to Abraham Lincoln, he was a wonderful example of how to serve in the political field, but not everyone's going to get elected to public office, let alone the President of the United States. So that kind of rules that out. If you're a painter, you probably can't paint as well as Michelangelo or Rembrandt or Leonardo da Vinci, who has been really heralded as the best artists of our time. For all time, really. And if you can't paint, then how are you going to be able to serve in that way? Does that make sense? But anyone can help someone else out. Now, Mother Teresa devoted her whole life to service of humanity. She had a deep conviction and a deep faith. She had a deep faith to Jesus. She was devoted to the church. But she did something that most people don't do. She devoted her whole life to helping others. Now, I'm not asking anybody to devote their whole life to helping others, because I don't even do that. But it doesn't mean that we can't do one or two things, because Mother Teresa even said, one of my other quotes that I like that she says is, if you can't feed 100 people, feed just one. Well, if you can't talk to 1,000 people or serve 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people like, she did, maybe just try helping one person out. Maitreya is going to put a tremendous emphasis on service because it's very important for every one of us to start to serve in some way, because our soul's nature is to serve. That's who and what we are in truth, is a soul in incarnation. We aren't really taught that in life, how to serve. The ones that do have a tremendous amount of soul contact, which inspires them to serve in that way, like Mother Teresa, like Jimmy Carter, like Abraham Lincoln, like Jesus. The reason why they did what they did for as long as they did and as much as they did and had such an impact on the time and even after they've passed away is because of the soul contact that they had. And once you start to serve, you start to use your soul's energy in that way. And it makes it easier to do it and more to do it. But Maitreya suggested just trying to do one thing a day. But he did say, many are the ways to serve, and nobody should be left out or feel left out, that they can't do anything, because we are here, every one of us, have a gift to give to the world. Now, we might not know what it is. It might not necessarily be that noteworthy or newsworthy, but it really would be, and the purpose of all our lives is to create right human relationships, because that's a universal purpose of all the souls. And the only way to do that is to serve. And we can't say that we live in a world where everything is balanced and we have right human relationships when we have a very, very few amount of people hoarding all the wealth and millions upon millions of people living in abject poverty and literally starving to death. That's an injustice. The only way to bring about justice in that situation is for the nations to share the resources that they have. Thus, service is needed. But Maitreya, I said, Maitreya will emphasize this, the importance of service. The masters will give us all a field of service to do if we so choose. And if we do that, we will grow in a way, spiritually, we'll grow in a way that we can't possibly imagine. And it will carry us on through the next life, and then the next life, and then the next life, till eventually we all become masters just like these masters. Because what really separates them from, or differentiates them from us, nothing separates us from them, but the distinction between us and them is they know nothing but service, because they manifest their soul quality perfectly. We don't. That's why we have the problems that we have and everything. But anyway, thank you very much for the comment nonetheless, Ms. Lisa. I really appreciate it. All righty. Now, I have a very long dissertation from at Maitreya, so I'm not going to read everything. I am going to read just the first part and the last part, if that's okay. So what did he ask? Thanks for such an honest and succinct answer, which is in alignment with my own thoughts. Prophet Ben mentioned, like you said, that Maitreya is living in East London, which is where I live and was born and raised. He also said that Maitreya is 6'2", which is my height. And he said Maitreya would be connected to the age of Aquarius, and I'm an Aquarian. The only thing he has said, which doesn't tally, is the date, 1977. I was born in 1976. Ben also said that the voices he heard would grow more and more quieter. Part of me wonders if his channeling of the date 1977 was off, or perhaps this is the date that the human that was overshadowed by Maitreya occurred. I'm not saying I'm the Maitreya that has been spoken about, but I do call myself Maitreya, and that is what my community in East London refer to me as. Okay, I'm going to skip down to the question. Where is it? Let's see. I guess my last question to you is, could it be possible that I am the Maitreya Prophet Ben prophesized, or in your honest opinion, would you say that it is too far-fetched? I'd love to hear your feedback, and apologies for such a long transmission. All right, so to go back to the first part, let me kind of read it, and then I'll kind of address it. Ben mentioned, like you said, that Maitreya is living in East London. So what I remember Ben saying, where Maitreya lives, is in the Brick Lane community of London. Is that East London? I'm not familiar with the geography of London per se. So if Brick Lane is in East London, that's where Maitreya is and has been since July 19th, 1977. What I said about his height and description was there was one instance where I saw Maitreya in the parking lot, and the way that he appeared was nearly exactly how Benjamin Crème described him. And I saw him in this parking lot looking like this before I read it in the book. So it wasn't like I put it in my mind that he looked like that. And he appeared to be taller than me. I'm about 6 feet, so he appeared to be about 6'2", 6'3", but I didn't pull out a tape measure, so I don't know exactly how tall he was. I can't remember the exact height that Ben said. Did he say 6'2", 6'3"? But he was tall and slender, of Middle Eastern descent that I saw, and his face looked a lot like the images that I've seen online of the Maitreya Buddha statues. He looked very much like that. Small chin, high cheekbone, large forehead. Now, his only connection to Aquarius that I'm aware of is that he's the world teacher for the Aquarian age. So, is it true to say that the only things that don't tally is the fact that Ben said that Maitreya entered London on July 19th, 1997? Is that the only thing that doesn't jive with what he said? Or are you doing what they say, ramming a square peg in a round hole and thinking it fits? Because I don't really think it fits. So just because you were born and raised in East London, just because you're 6'2", and your birthday is somewhere between mid-January and mid-February, doesn't mean that you're an Aquarian. It doesn't mean that you're Maitreya. It just means that you're an Aquarian that's 6'2" that lives in East London. That's it. Now, what you think is what you think, and what you believe is what you believe. And it's not my place to tell somebody who and what they are. And you've commented before, asked some wonderful questions that were very thought-provoking, and I really appreciate the questions that you asked. And you've kind of hinted around about this for some time with me, and I never really thought it to be my place to tell you what I thought. Now, since you're asking me, is it far-fetched to think that you are the one that Ben was talking about? Or do I think that you're the one this is a better way of asking the question. Do I think that you're the one that Ben was talking about? Do I think that you're the one that I've met throughout my entire life from time to time? No, I don't think that at all. Now, it's been said, because Ben talked about it, that within the heart of Maitreya is all the joy in the world. He knows what's going on all around the world at any time because he's omniscient. So in half his heart, he's experiencing all the joy and the love that we all experience moment to moment. And he knows where it's coming from, who it is, and how much it is. And he said any time he experiences that within his heart, he sends a bit of love of his own heart to that through that one channel. Now, he also says that within that same heart of his is all the pain and suffering in the world. And there's a lot of pain and suffering. So can you imagine experiencing that on a moment-to-moment basis? Can you experience that at the same time? I know for myself, I don't experience that because I'm not omniscient. I don't have the consciousness that Maitreya has. Not saying that one day I won't, but I'm saying that at this moment in time, at the moment of this recording, I don't have that experience moment to moment in my heart. I don't think I could experience all that at one time and make it, let alone carry on a conversation with somebody and be totally relaxed at the same time. But Maitreya can do that. So it's not just those three things. And then the one thing about him being entering London in 1977 is the only thing that doesn't tally. Benjamin Crème said he lived in the Himalayas for millennia. Do you remember living in the Himalayas for millennia? And then coming down into the plains of Pakistan and then flying into London on July 19th, 1977. Now, you don't have to believe Ben. You don't have to believe anything that I'm saying, but I'm just throwing this back in your court for you to think about. Shakespeare once said, "Know thyself, and to thine own self be true." We all have to be honest with who and what we are. And there's nothing wrong with saying to yourself that This is who I am. No less great and no more great. This is who I am. And love it nonetheless, and be okay with that. It doesn't mean that it's stagnant and life's stagnant and this is all that we'll ever be. It just means that at this moment in time, this is who and what we are. Now, I know myself to not be Maitreya. I've never once thought that I was Maitreya. People have often asked me or said to me, they've asked, can you channel a master, or can you be overshadowed by a master? And I tell them honestly, no, I can't. It doesn't mean that lifetimes from now I won't be able to, but at this moment in time, I don't have the capacity to do that. Ben was trained very specifically by his master for years to be able to do what he did, so that the information that comes from his master is not distorted. He said, even in the beginning, that he would think that he was receiving messages from his master, and they were wrong. They weren't there. It was coming from his own subconscious. So he even had to learn through training, through objectivity and detachment, the difference between his own subconscious and what's coming from his master. And it probably wasn't easy. He doesn't really talk about what it was entailed in that, or the training, or he didn't go into anything in depth, but he did say that he had problems in the beginning, and it took him a while to learn how to do it. No figment of imagination would put somebody through that kind of training. And he even demanded proof from his master, which his master mailed a picture of himself that he received in the mail. So he knew it wasn't a figment of his own imagination. So it's important to know who and what you are. It's not my place to tell anyone who and what they are. It's important for you to discover that for yourself, right? So if thinking you're Maitreya, you're the one that Ben was talking about, makes you a better person, makes you more loving, has you and inspires you to do all of these great works in your community, then by all means believe it. And I would say the same thing of someone who is a Christian who doesn't believe anything that I say, is totally against anything that I say, because I've said this before to him. If that's okay, if you believe that Jesus is the only true Son of God and I'm going to hell, that's fine. But if it makes you a more loving person, a more compassionate person, if it makes you want to see the end of hunger, like Mother Teresa probably wanted to see the end of hunger, if you wanted to see justice and peace, like Jimmy Carter, who was a very devout Christian, if that's what inspires you to do that, then I'm all for it. You don't have to believe what I believe. I don't expect anybody to believe what I believe. Now, I've had my own personal experiences with Maitreya that lead me to believe that what I'm thinking about who and what Maitreya is, what Ben said Maitreya, who and what Maitreya is true. You might not believe it in that way, and that's fine. So I'm cool with it. Now, these masters are in incarnation in the world. There's 63 of them that are dealing with humanity. Not all of them, not all the masters on this planet work with humanity. Some of them are working with the animal kingdom, some work with the plant and vegetable kingdom, some work with the mineral kingdom, and some work with in other ways. But the ones that are concerned with humanity, there's only 63 in the entire world, and not all of them are in physical incarnation. The ones that are in physical incarnation incarnate in a few different ways. The first one is they keep the body that they had when they became a master and just stay in that body. The Master Joao Kuhl said that he became a master in 1865. And in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, when he was writing the materials through, or giving the materials that Alice Bailey wrote down in her book, he was still in the same body from what he said. The other thing is, the other way that they incarnate is naturally, like the Master Jesus. It's been said by Ben and Ben's master that the Master Jesus incarnated 600 years ago in Syria, the natural way. Did not know he was a master until the age of 4. And then he was fully conscious of himself as a master after that, and has been living in the same body ever since. And then, I don't know how often this happens, but the other way would be the way that Sai Baba was lived his life and performed his service, where he was born in the natural way and aged just like a normal person would age. He was a young man, became a a man and then became a middle-aged man, elderly man, and passed away. He didn't have to do that. He's a fully conscious, realized master on the level of little above where Maitreya would be in terms of his consciousness. Very advanced master. But he didn't choose to incarnate or create a body and live and never die, and never age and never die like most of these masters do, because he was in the public eye. So he lived a normal life like a normal person, but he didn't have to do that. Now Maitreya, according to Ben's master, is doing something totally unique. He thought created his body. It's called a Mahavarupa, where he took a bit of the qualities of the Buddha and the bit of the quality of his own qualities of his body, and he made it together and he created a body that is quite unique and quite extraordinary, because he's able to still receive the spiritual energies coming from two great avatars, the Spirit of Peace and the Avatar of Synthesis, who overshadow him in the same way that he overshadowed Jesus in Palestine. So they are not even in the solar system, but very, very advanced avatars and beings from another solar system that are overshadowing him at this time. But this body that he created allows him to be sensitive enough to those energies and probably other energies, but yet dense enough to live at our own level. So he created that body, and he's not aging. He's never aged. So when he entered London on July 19th, 1977, he looks the same age as he does now. But it's true to say that Maitreya is really millennia age old. He's been alive for a long, 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 long time. But he was living away from humanity 17,500 feet up. Now he's in the everyday world. Now, the other thing that's more important than all that is the fact that Maitreya is not saying who he is, and will never say who he is until the day of declaration. The times that I saw Maitreya, the times that my friends and colleagues saw Maitreya, he never once mentioned that he was Maitreya. Never once said that he was this great spiritual avatar or anything of that way. He just came and appeared as a normal person. And while he's speaking to our media, giving lectures, giving talks, probably most people don't even know who he is. He's only using a very common Middle Eastern name, something to the akin of a Middle Eastern version of John Smith, according to what Ben said. But he won't say who he is. If he's ever asked who he is, he won't say it. He'll neither confirm it nor deny it, according to Ben. Now, at the end of every one of Benjamin Creme's lectures, he always talked about the Day of Declaration. Now, what is the Day of Declaration? He said the Day of Declaration is when humanity demands from their media him an opportunity to speak to us all at one time. So apparently there will be some kind of crescendo of interest in who and what Maitreya is, not knowing he's Maitreya, but at the same time we want him to speak. Why would we listen to those idiot so-called world leaders that we have when we have the avatar of love that has all the answers to our problems? Why would we listen to Donald Trump or Joe Biden or whoever, Justin Trudeau? We'll listen to him. So we're going to demand from our media him an opportunity to speak. And all the news media is going to come together and be present for his press conference, this Day of Declaration, as he says, because he's going to declare himself as Maitreya at that point. But there will be billions upon billions of people watching it all at the same time. In fact, everyone in the world will be watching him at that time, thus fulfilling the prediction, all eyes will see him. So there must be at that point, will have to have been a huge interest in who and what he is and what he has to say. Just saying. And it's not just putting up a video on YouTube and having 8 or 9 people watch it as a Day of Declaration. That's not it. So we will demand from our media him an opportunity to speak whenever that happens. Now, what Ben also said at the end of every lecture was something quite extraordinary about that particular day that's yet to come. That on that day when Maitreya is getting ready to speak, he will not say a word out loud. His mouth won't move, but yet we'll hear everything that he says inwardly in our own head, in our own language. And he'll talk for about 15 to 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes about where humanity has come from, where we're at today, where if we don't change our ways, we'll destroy ourselves. It's been said that he'll give us a vision of what it's like if we do not change our ways. So we'll see what it's like to lose our only planetary home, probably feel it in the way that Maitreya sees it and feels it. And then we'll also see and feel what it's like if we do try the principle of sharing and how glorious that will be. But none of this will be spoken aloud. It will all be heard in our head. The second thing that's quite miraculous is Maitreya himself has said it will be as if he embraces every single one of us, like he's put his arms around the whole world. And will feel his love, as he says, even physically. Every one of us. And then the third miraculous thing that will happen is there will be millions upon millions of miracle cures of all kinds, all over the world, on that day. And Ben always ended every lecture by saying, and those 3 ways, we will know that that man, and only that man, is Maitreya, the world teacher. I love you guys. Thank you very much for your time. And I look forward to putting out videos in the very near future. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Take care. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.